All right, all of you wonderful, freedom-loving boys and girls, whomever you are, wherever you are in this big blue marble of a planet we call Earth, welcome to Center Line Systems. But you already knew that. That's why you're here in this channel. Hey, we took a nice little break from social media. That's going to come up as part of tonight's episode on our Millstone Monday. You can see over there, you know, the one, the only Blake, partner in crime from over on Millstone. We've got a bunch of updates to give everybody, some housekeeping, what do they say? Yada, 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 you know, that type of stuff. If you got questions, comments, you know, leave them in the chat. I always love everybody in the chat. Matter of fact, we're just going to start off with some chat. We got Gene with a big woo, me. That was supposed to kind of like be a little, not quite Futurama, but, you know, please remember to do this. Pretty please, you know, imagine Bender saying something like that. Actually, truth be told, Bender would have yelled at you like, hey, meatbag, you know, do something like that. We got Ground Fog with the big, hey, what's up, Ground Fog? Hanner Bend, Minnesota in the hizzo. We got Snowshoe checking in from Michigan. And Gene's giving you a shout out. I don't know if you can see it. He's like, good evening, there, Dad.
Hey,
so, Blake,
Gene.
Yeah, you want to make a response, a comment to that? And
Yeah,
then,
well, real quick, actually, when you said yada, 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 it reminded me of something my wife has. She's got a little patch. She's a dispatcher, and you can probably hear our son in the background. You're going to be hearing a lot of him tonight. But she has a dispatch patch that says yada, 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 just say 10-4. But
not what I want to hear when it comes to law enforcement, but, you know.
And that does seem to be the state of the world anymore, does it not?
Well, see, there it goes, right? Hey, and, you know, and just on a weird little quick side note, before I got a couple jokes I got to read because I'm getting way behind. Steve, God bless you. You know who you are. Steve sent me 2 more jokes tonight. One was a duplicate, though, Steve. But I've got this massive list going. I almost want to put it into a coffee book. I mean, it's like dad jokes as accumulated by Steve L. So, Steve, if you're watching, you know, live or on demand, thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. But you know, just going into that state of the world and Blake and the yada, 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 you know, I know everybody's going to say political this, political that, but, you know, taking that time off for me was just really awesome because, you know, I was trying to do that Epstein, you know, just having fun, like, you know, 60 this many days in office. And it was so surprising to me how many people, like, they just ran with that in so many weird directions. My point is that I really don't think we can ever be, you know, a constitutional republic free, you know, truly have our freedoms. Because if we have the deep state or whatever you want to call it, that's willing to obfuscate, camouflage, hide, conceal, and not bring charges against these people because of who they are, man, do you know what they're willing to do to all the rest of us little guys? I mean, you know, so like, to me, it was just like, no, this is like, we have to hold these people accountable or there is no republic. Right. And it was just kind of amazing to me. People like cry harder. I'm like, cry harder. What are you talking about? Or, you know, blaming it on Trump. I'm like, Trump, he's like, man, it ain't just Trump. I mean, this is all, yeah, you're right. It is Trump. And I'm trying to hold him accountable. He's, you know, get out there and do it. And it was the administration before him and then the administration before that. Well, so anyway, that's my weird way of just coming back over to you is, yeah, just, it was nice to take some time off because it just seems, and this is going to make a little bit more sense why Mark just rambled this out, you know, as part of the intro, because we're not going to talk about anything specific when it comes to geopolitics right now. But it's so obvious, like you know, I don't know. I don't want to say the inmates are running the asylum, but I don't know, man. Blake, you want to respond at all?
Yeah, I mean, on both the micro and the macro scale, we should always be prepared for some sort of situation that could go south real quick. And I think that we see, on a multitude of different reasons, without going into anything really specific right now, we see a lot of these possible things right around that corner. And I mean, this is really the crux of Millstone. It's why we've been talking about it from the get-go. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you find yourself on. It doesn't matter what you believe or who you worship or anything like that. It's, do you want to protect your family and provide the best you can for them and the best outcome of survival in any situation, whether it's natural, man-made, or otherwise? So, that's really what, again, Millstone's about. And that's kind of why we always have been having these sorts of talks is, hey, let's kind of dig into what you can do to better prepare your family. And tonight, we're going to kind of talk about a little bit of something we've moved forward in person to actually hopefully help make that dream a little more true. So, Mark, do you want to say anything or you want me to just kind of roll with this?
No, that was just a good kind of just like, primer for what we're going to talk about tonight. I'll bring it back over to you. But no, that's it. So again, look at how many Tesla owners have been accosted. I don't know how many of those people, like who thinks that the majority of those people are quote unquote conservatives, right? So, this isn't about politics, boys and girls. And a grizzly bear doesn't give a shit if you've got a D or an R in front of your name or, none of that kind of crap, right? And neither does
exactly.
A bunch of people, unfortunately, are without their houses. Many people died. I think it's about 20 people died over the weekend in the storm. So, like, do you think Mother Nature, cares if a drowning man is a Republican or Democrat? So, I mean, great point right there. Yeah.
And that's like, let's actually kind of jump into some of what we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay, hold it right there then. Okay, let me go. So we had two other comments coming in. Let me just that just missed the our intro. VTech Moonwalker is in the house. Just got back from a hike. Time for this. Good to see you. I know you have a hard time meeting our schedule, and I'm going to have more information on what we're doing as far as live streams and social media. That's part of the stuff Blake and I are going to talk about. And then Gene thinks the CLS Book of Dad Jokes is a good title. Yeah, and then I got to give again credit to where credit's due, and to Steve. And then speaking of, on that note, let's just do the two dad jokes I've got ready for tonight. All right, here's where we left off there last time. All right, hey, I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a fear of elevators. However, I'm taking steps to avoid it.
Oh,
and then my next one. Give me a second. I gotta keep track. They're so terrible. That's what makes
I love them. I know.
Here's my favorite. One of my favorites. You guys know I've been going through some medical issues. Well, my doctor gave me 6 months to live. I told the guy I couldn't pay the bill, so he gave me an additional 6 months. That one wasn't as good. To stay tuned, but none of them are really any
That's
good.
Moving into grandpa tiers of jokes there. Like we've gone out of dad joke into a grandpa joke with that one.
Okay, well then let's try to do one more dad joke, and then we'll go into it because this next one's pretty good. A man knocked on my door the other day and he was asking for a donation to the community pool. I mean, that's not going to take place for another 6 months here in Minnesota. We're still super cold, but they're trying to get money for the community pool. So I was asking for donations, so I gave him a glass of water. Just absolutely horrible.
All right. So welcome to the Millstone podcast.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. So Teslas. Yeah. You brought this up. It's a good point because this actually ties into one of the things that me and Mark are really kind of working on right now, which is situational awareness in the urban environment. And so I guess before going into kind of some of the class stuff that we're looking at doing, I'm pretty happy to announce it's not fully done yet, but we might have found a physical home for Millstone here in the local area. That's a good flat range that has a training facility that's going to be able to allow us to utilize it. So with that, we're going to be kind of doing a series of classes in person this summer. And one of them is going to be situational awareness in the urban environment. And that's kind of why I brought up the Tesla again, Mark. And I think it's a perfect example is, look at training you can do in environments you're going to be in. What do you find yourself in your everyday situations? Well, it's moving from your house to your car, taking the kids to work or to school, rather going to work, going to the grocery store, being in these urban environments. Well, what are you doing there? Are you looking at your phone and have a cone of, just focus that's only 6 inches in front of your face, or you actually got your head on a swivel out in those environments? What are you doing when you're parking in a Tesla and you're in an environment where there's been known vandalism on those vehicles? Are you focusing on, the music that's on the phone or on the radio, or are you focusing on what's outside the car?
Yeah, so I kind of actually want you to bring it back. We might as well just start there. As Blake was saying, so we've been working behind the scenes, and I met this guy last year with Blake, and then Blake's met him now as winter's kind of wrapping up. Now, knock on wood, because it's Minnesota. I mean, it can still snow, next month easily. So we're not anywhere out of the woods yet, but a lot of the snow is dissipating. Hopefully get some rain and a little bit warmer weather. But yeah, so there's an outdoor range where Blake has met those guys, and it's got an indoor training facility, classroom, that type of thing. It's got a couple different ranges and options there. And it looks like, so again, knock on wood, that we'll be able to partner with those guys, and we'll be able to hold, again, I know this doesn't really help too many of the guys, boys and girls watching live right now, or if you're watching on demand, it's going to be focused on live, with actual students. And Blake, I wanted to bring this back over to you.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna videotape, a lot of the stuff we do. Mm-hmm. And for those, for you guys who are interested, and we still have to figure out a little bit, but this is why I want to turn over to Blake. Blake knows more about this than I do. So go ahead, Blake. So even though if you can't be there with us, if you're not in the Minnesota area, Minneapolis, Walker, Duluth, but there are going to be options where we're going to be able to make this available. Blake, you want to run with that?
Yeah. So the hope is we're going to be looking at doing about a dozen classes this summer, and in that we want to film these classes both in the classroom and on the flat range time, maybe some of the scenarios and things like that. One, because we're trying to generate that content that we spoke about last year. And two, we want to be able to get more out there as a digital resource for people to be able to utilize as well. So the hope is, and we're kind of working out the details of how we're doing it, but we're probably going to do something like a Patreon where we have all these classes up there, these resources, access to trainers, questions, things like that. But that'll kind of be coming as we develop this body of content. But this summer, that's really going to be the big goal is, hey, let's get some actual range time, get some training, get some people through some classes, and start generating this content and spooling up Millstone so that we can actually get what we were talking about last year, or get where we were talking about last year, I should say. So,
and Blake, so when I first left the agency, P-Rick and I were actually going to start a training company, GMG3 training company, but and we were, I put together a whole bunch of classes, and then I was a permit to carry instructor. So I did have a training aspect to Centerline, and just to bring it up, the Centerline, people might think, well, that's a weird name for an outdoor company. It's like, yeah, because it was never intended to be an outdoor company. It was starting off to be a training company to fight and move from your center line. It's a concept. And then as we were moving forward, I'm like, well, God, all these gun belts out here really stink. So I'm like, well, I'm going to make my own gun belt, right? Cause I need a good everyday carry gun belt. And then yada, 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 that led into this and that led into that. And I was deer hunting one day and almost lost the knife. And then, so the gear side of it kind of morphed around the training side, but that's where I first started. But long-winded way to come back over to Blake. So we already have a pretty good litany of classes. Blake and I have been talking about working over. Situational awareness just seemed to be one of the focuses, or the seminal classes that we wanted to talk about, because in today's day and age, I mean, it seems to me, maybe I'm tinfoil hatty guy, but man, if you don't have your head on a swivel, I know everybody thinks, if you're on one side of the political spectrum, you think it's roses because your guy won. If you're on the other side of the political spectrum, it probably is roses because you never get arrested when you sell people. Well, except for the Tesla stuff. Talk about an FAFO. But situational awareness and knowing what tools are at your disposal and how to actually effectively use those tools to protect yourself, protect your loved ones, protect innocent people, protect your community. So situational awareness. So it's not just going to be all dynamic, kinetic type of stuff, but do we want to kind of just give them a little bit of what we're looking at? I mean,
yeah, the basic outline of kind of some of the classes we're looking at doing this year will be a general concealed carry class. Then we're looking at what we're calling situational awareness in the home, and then situational awareness in the urban environment. We're looking at doing...
If you don't mind, let me just keep it in here. So I'm no longer a certified instructor. I was I don't remember the name of that group anymore. I've heard the
BCA.
Yeah, I don't want to.
BCA, I think. Yeah.
No. It's a pretty big name. It's not NRA. It's that other US, and I don't want to say the rest of the name because I don't want to get in trouble, but I kind of left that group because it kind of just became a little like, what do you mean I have to redo this? You guys are being shady. But so I was an instructor for those guys and an instructor for NRA, but Blake is still a current instructor. So if you are in the Minnesota area, you're looking for, some good, your permit to carry. So we're going to start off with that. And then we'll probably have an intro to pistols and a basic pistol for people who either need refresher or aren't sure if they even want a permit to carry that. And then we'll go into probably 2 advanced handgun classes. I even have a handgun class that is off that the Minnesota whatever board of whatever signed off on that. It could be taught to law enforcement as well. But so we'll have, again, it's going to be a mix. And I just wanted to say that, Blake, because that's kind of a little bit more on the kinetic side of some of the things we're doing. And that range out there is going to be very nice to use that. I mean, it's going to be a great
well,
to do that.
And to the point real quick on the facility, I'll just kind of go over the facility. So if any of you do happen to be within the area, you kind of, what's available to you if you'd like to utilize it. So they have a pistol range, looking at maybe doing some potential expansion on. They have a rifle range that currently goes out to 398 yards. They have a trap range, a skeet range, a sporting clay range, a 3D archery range, and then a bow range. And they are $85 a key for a membership for a year for individuals, or $135 for a couple. So very reasonably priced. It's a nonprofit organization run by a board. So this isn't like your standard private range. Good people run it, really, really nice folk. And it's out in the middle of, Walker area where we're kind of in the rural zone. So it's really a nice place. Inside the classroom too, that allows us to do, the in-person stuff, but we're also looking at, and you'd have to show up for this one. I don't know if the online would be quite as good, but we're also looking at doing a basic reloading course to teach people how to do reloading of ammunition, and an assembly of an AR course. So those will be the 2 kind of building classes we're doing this year. And then depending on interaction and interest, we might expand that into more firearms and more fields next year as well.
And then sticking with the firearm, and we've already done this in a couple of our Millstone videos before, the F kits, and one of the Fs, for the firearm, if you haven't watched them, go back and watch that. But, again, and, we've had Redbeard. I see you over there, a Sentinel of Liberty. Nice to see you here tonight, boys. He goes, good evening, boys. But, go back and watch that episode, because again, I personally know a bunch of people who have weapons, a variety of different platforms, long guns, shotguns, handguns, and they don't know the first thing about maintenance, right? So I think, that would be another great part of it, whether that's your basic or whatever you want to do, or, whether you want to learn more about the smithing side of it or the armorer side of it. But you also, no matter what, and I'll just say this, I've known, unfortunately, we live in northern Minnesota. Everybody's a tough guy. Everybody's a hunter. And then you're hanging out with somebody and you've just been out hunting all day long, and they just, come back inside and they throw their gun in the closet, you're like, what are you doing, dude? Not even letting it sweat, not wiping it down, not, re-lubricating it. So I think that would be another good one right there. But that one, Blake, I think would be okay for the online.
Absolutely, it would be. So 2 things I want to say real quick. So right now I got my professional gunsmith hat on. That person that doesn't let their gun, cool off, lets it sweat, all that. I love that person. It's like my favorite person because that means money. Now I'm gonna take my hat. I'm gonna take my gunsmith hat off and just Blake the hunter here and go, you friggin' dumbass. Come on, guys. But that is one of the courses we're looking at. Oh, go ahead.
No, finish up.
No, I was going to say that is one of the courses we're looking at doing is what we've termed basic firearm maintenance. So what we'll probably do in that class is we'll have your most standard semi-automatic pistol, something like either a 1911 or a Glock. We'll have like a Remington 870. We'll have probably like a 700 or a Model 70 bolt gun, and then a semi-automatic rifle. And we'll go through and go, okay, as a, your normal guy, this is how you need to maintain your firearms. This is what you should be doing after you utilize them. This is kind of what to expect. And then going to the next level, going every, X amount, this is what we should tear things down to. So that's kind of going to be basic firearm maintenance. It's going to be, here's how to service your firearm. And then also here's lubrications you should use, tools you should use, techniques, things like that, good tools to have on hand at all times. And that will probably be kind of a primer into, if it takes off, maybe some more advanced, sort of classes along that lines too. Really, a lot of what this year is going to be is, just like anybody else when we're doing it, we have a good idea of what we want to do, but we are going to have some classes that are more testing the water and seeing what the interest is. And then depending on what people's interest is, we'll expand into that, both in the physical and the digital realm. The hope is to see this become a reoccurring thing where we're doing a lot of classes, training a lot of people, and really trying to get information out of there. We're just, as we're kind of coining it right now, this is season 1. This is that first physical step.
And, you know, and again, and we know a bunch of you guys who are watching right now, you know, you don't live in our neighborhood. We got Henderman from Minnesota, and I know we've got 1 or 2 other people who come on who are from Minnesota. You know who I haven't seen in a while, speaking of Minnesota, is Angry Viking Veteran. I hope you're doing okay. AVV, I hope you're doing okay out there, brother. We haven't seen you in a little while, or at least seen you commenting. I know his schedule, you know, really kind of made it hard, just like VTech Moonwalkers. But so, yeah, you might not be able to come up, but, you know, then we'll have, again, this type of content. So just stay tuned. That's kind of what we're kind of going through tonight, is just to give you a little bit of an understanding of how the dish, what it's going to taste like, what it's going to look like. And we've got a couple more, but so I'd taken this all the way back full circle into talking about handguns, because Blake was kind of jumping over, but like, so you see, that's a pretty wide, you know, repertoire, you know, and it's from all the way from, you know, I don't even know what the hell a handgun is, to I think I'm ready to own my own and carry it, you know, CCW, you know, concealed carry. Minnesota, by the way, is not a concealed carry state, but, you know, that's, and maybe we'll even do some of that too. It's just, you know, and have one of these conversations for 30 minutes and, like, you know, pros and cons, you know, concealed versus open, and, you know, and helping you make a more informed decision. You know, before I go into the other classes, Blake, just on the, you know, CCW, like, I think this would be an interesting conversation, because it never surprises me how many people I see in comments on videos who think that you're going to shoot your bleep off if you carry appendix. You know, and I mean, I guess if you're like that police officer from Miami who negligently discharged into her buddy's leg, or, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I suppose you could, but, you know, well, that's not what we're espousing. And then, you know,
there's a reason we call them negligent discharges. Something dumb had to happen to do that, you know, and that's kind of, again, it's the thrust of what we want to do here. Is we're going to give you what we know, what, you know, advice we have and we've developed in our professional careers, and we're also hoping not to just be the only ones you're hearing from. You know, if this goes well, we're hoping to have you hear from a lot of other instructors, a lot of other different viewpoints and takes, so that you can actually take the motif of information we're trying to produce and get something that works really well for you. You know, it may be that you know pretty much everything we talk about, but then you pick up that one thing that could be the difference, you know? And the other thing is too, is we also want this to be a two-way street. It's one of the reasons we're trying to build a community, not a business. We want to hear back from people. We want to, you know, understand kind of where you're coming from, what you're looking and what your desires are, so that we can kind of tailor to it, so that as a community, we can all move forward, even if there's thousands of miles that separate us.
Hey, and then before we go into some of the other classes, Gene just raised a comment. And I think this is worth just throwing in there to address. Gene just asked, will we hold any type of competitions to raise funds towards the group? You know, possibly, but there's 2 ways to address that. And I just want to throw this out there. So when I was first starting, again, it was GMG3, and that was me and Patrick. You know, we kind of wanted to start with a bang. You know, he's former military and then agency GRS. I'm former military and then agency ground branch. We wanted to put on a really good competition with local law enforcement, you know, and get them to bring out their families, to bring out community, and let their, you know, whether they want to call it SWAT or whatever. I mean, we can address those kind of terms later. But, and it was amazing to me when I was reaching out through the area where I am, how many chiefs are training and, you know, the training officer, just like basically just told me to pound sand. Like, yeah, we don't bring in outside instructors. I'm like, that's the dumbest. I just left the agency. You know, like, you know, the premier, like almost all we do is bring in outside instructors. Are you effing kidding me? You don't want to bring in somebody who's able to share their experiences or what their professional world, how they approach it. Just think about this, boys and girls. And Blake, I'll shut up and bring it back over to you. There's tactical handgun shooting, and then there's competitive handgun shooting. But there's a lot of things that that individuals in the competitive handgun shooting world have learned that definitely translate into your personal self-defense, combat, however you want to look at that other side of the coin. Why wouldn't you want to go and learn from this guy who's like the world expert at X? You know, like, and I'm not saying I'm the world expert or Blake is, but like, you know, you want to bring in an outsider and have the chance to, you know, look, there's been plenty of things that I've attended where like okay, I walked away with that with 3 awesome diamonds in the rough. You know what I mean? Like I remember getting, not my last little story, I remember getting chewed out at the farm. I'm not going to say what I was doing, but I was using a piece of government property. Maybe I've said this before. I'll just say it. I was using a mailbox to help me facilitate an operational act. And my grading instructor was jumping down my throat about this. And he ended it with like, and he goes, and I think that may have been a felony. And I'm just like, you know what? I would have learned a lot more if he simply would have said, hey, just think about it. Because it is a mailbox, people look at those. And if you seem to be like somebody digging in someone's mailbox, that's going to raise more attention. That made more sense than saying, oh, and by the way, I think that would have been a felony. Dude, we're committing espionage. What the F are you talking about? That is way worse than like, I stole somebody's like, mail flyers, type of thing. Like, so anyway, Blake, does that help kind of add to where we were just kind of going with some of that stuff? Well, and the competition thing. So I guess I kind of danced around, Gene, I hope we do it, but I think if we do, it's going to be something else that Blake and I have talked about.
Yeah. And as far as like the competitions go, I will speak for North Star Shooting Club here. Is I know that the manager, and I'm sure he's all right if I say his name, Gary, the individual that's running the place over there, is really wanting to see competitions kind of come to the range. It's been Fog Firearms, my personal company's desire to see competitions start to be happening out there on a semi-regular basis, because one, I mean, it's just good for business. We can create this a local area for shooting sports. People start coming. That means more work for me and potentially more work for Mark and more Millstone stuff. So I do think we're going to look at doing some shoots this summer. I know one of the things that they are looking at doing is an under the light shoot, because one of the cool parts about their trap and skeet ranges, they actually have stadium lights, so you can go out and do it at night. So I think we are going to be doing some of that kind of stuff. And hey, if we do some fun stuff like that, maybe we'll make some content and we'll put some content of it too. I mean, that's kind of the big thing is we do want to make this, pretty much all live or at least content creatable sort of stuff.
And then, so just on that competition, kind of wrapping that back up. And I apologize, boys and girls. You can see where my little squirrel brain goes sometimes. I don't know what it was about just addressing that competition. Oh, I know how I got started, because I couldn't believe, I was dumbfounded by how many law enforcement officers were like, we don't bring in outside instructors. I'm like, you guys are effing retarded.
Well, I think a big part of that comes from everybody has ego to a certain extent. Some people more than others. And I think one of the biggest things, I mean, if we really want to be honest about trying to learn a new skill and trying to develop something and flex some new muscles, we have to leave the ego aside. You have to go in with a child's wonderment. Go in as it's a new skill you don't know. I think that's really something. Go ahead.
And that's what I was just saying. So even if you get one, there's one diamond in the rough, one gem, put it in your hip pocket, make it yours. All of my accumulated experiences or how I do things, that's, what it is. It's not like I've ever gone to one. Well, there's one thing I've done that totally blew my mind away, and we'll save that for another day. But then, hey, but back on that, on the competition. So part of the other training we're looking at doing on Millstone. Now, I think, to Gene's point, and Blake and I are throwing each other under the bus. We haven't rehearsed any of this. He's busy. He's got kids. I'm trying to run a business. We had a little bit we tried talking about this on Friday. We're unsuccessful, just too busy. Did a little bit Saturday. And then, 5 minutes before we went live, we're sitting there saying hi and listening to the kid in the background. But
as you guys are all listening to right now.
Yeah, that you guys are hearing as well. Right. So, but I think, one of the things that I really enjoyed doing, and I think this goes more into the competition and this goes more into the community building, is adults are going to come out for the handgun, or if we're going to do long gun and shotgun, shooting techniques or something like that. I don't pretend to say I'm a sniper or any of that kind of stuff. I'm a pretty damn good shot, but to me, there's so many other people that are doing that. To me, it's rather more of showing you a lot of those different techniques with those different platforms and how they can be utilized in different circumstances. But we're back to the competition, and Blake, and I'm going to turn this over to you, boss and/or archery. I forgot that they had an archery range out there. Yes. So
and that's
another aspect that we're going to be looking at, is what Blake's about to say.
It is, so boss basic outdoor survival skills. So we're looking at, because it's in the forest. It's a forested area, with archery skills, things like that can be taught out there. So there's a lot we can do. As far as, one of the other things we really want to do too is I'm looking into getting my hunter's education certification so that we can get kids out there and do that sort of thing too, and get that next generation learning these skills from a young age and incorporating them into an enjoyable pastime so that, if they find that love at a young age, I know that's what it was for me. And it turned into my favorite thing, so we're trying to, again, it's not a business. We're trying to make a community. We really want to give resources and tools. And yeah, granted, we need to make some money while we're doing it. I'm not going to lie about that one bit. It'd be nice to be able to have a steak every once in a while. But
I'll just be happy with milk and eggs, bro. So
yeah, right. Just a full belly, right?
Yeah, I'll just be happy with some protein.
Yeah. But we do want to do that community building effort and try to make it a full family thing, So some of the other stuff we've talked about, now we haven't gone into great depth of this yet,
well,
but
no, hang on. Don't go past that. Boss.
Oh yeah.
Boss is to me like a huge family thing, and that's probably something we would do for free, Gene. Kind of to your question. And
yeah.
Maybe, and there's opportunities for competition in there, but I did this voluntarily for the Duluth Police Department. They had a program, and I knew a couple of the guys on the Duluth Police Department, and I went out there and I taught these kids, from youth groups, basic outdoor survival, exactly what it means. I showed everybody, like, think about land navigation. I wasn't trying to show kids intersection, resection, 1/50 topos. I was showing them, like, the shadow tip method, the watch method, celestial navigation, things of this nature, how to make a fire, how to make a shelter, how to tie basic knots. And then we had archery in there as well. And it was awesome. The kids all gravitated to it. They loved every bit of it. This is where I'm going to bring it over to Blake. So, here's all these, police officers part of the program and counselors and stuff. And it was just amazing to me how many, adults, I'm from Minnesota, didn't know hardly any of the things I was talking about. They were like, hold it, that's how you tell North with a stick? Are you kidding me? Like, it's like, oh gosh, yeah, but you guys never show up for a class because all of this stuff, so, but I think Boss would be really good because that goes into
100%.
archery. And me, well, and you guys, maybe you don't know me, but because I haven't been able to do it for a long time because of my injuries, but I really love archery. And so, Blake, to your point, and I'm not claiming to be Fred Bear or anything. It would be awesome to bring some other guy on, who really is slaying it,
And that's again, the goal here is we want to, if this takes off, we want to bring a lot of instructors in for a lot of different classes, a lot of different fields and specialties. Maybe we'll do a trap making class. Maybe we'll do a survival tent class, how to build basic shelters. I mean, it depends on how all of these things go. If there's a lot of interest in Boss here locally, where we have a bunch of butts and seats, you better believe we're going to be doing Boss 2, Boss 3, Boss 4. Because that's one of the other things we are looking at doing is kind of setting this up somewhat structured like a school or an academy, where you're going to have some prerequisites. There'll be a class you take, and then once you have that skill down, you can go into the next thing. And Boss is a prime example of this. We can build almost indefinitely in multiple different directions based just off survival skills. We can do the same thing when it comes to pistol and rifle use. We can do the same thing when it comes to food production, so I don't want to really limit the direction in which we go. That's kind of, again, it's community based. I kind of want to see where the people want it taken, what they're most interested in, what that biggest gap is. And again, I think that I hope we can develop an ethos inside of Millstone that is, leave your ego at the door, come in with that child wonderment, and let's cultivate some new knowledge.
And as this gets going, because I know there's people, in the audience, again, both here in the live right now, and then, I know people who watch, later, but the whole gardening and canning side of it, and, that's
the stuff I love.
Well, and I was just going to say, and that stuff, like, and I haven't done canning in a little while. I personally think I had an incredible ham and bean soup that I canned and chicken. I I know that sounds stupid, but
canned chicken's awesome.
Eat that chicken right out of the can or right the jar. But I'm thinking about one of my relatives. She's been canning, since she was probably like all like as tall as your little one right now. So way more knowledgeable than me. Water bath and canning. Gardening. I'm not stupid, but that's not really my forte. Making basic snares and basic deadfalls, and like on hunting, I can sit and talk about that: wind, animal movements, bed downs, water, food, like that kind of stuff. But canning and farming, and I don't know, and again, we haven't rehearsed this, but Blake's dad does a lot of above ground, what do you call that?
Well, he does a lot of raised beds. However, I mean, since we're in this topic right now, I can kind of go into it. We're actually kind of moving into some new style gardening around. Well, new for us, I should say. We're looking at doing an outdoor hydroponic rig, a drain and flood system actually for food production this year. And, maybe I can post some pictures of that kind of stuff as we're building it and kind of run you through some of the process there. I'm actually going to be starting to terrace my hill this year to drastically expand our food production. So and that's kind of the thing. Again,
before you go any further, boys and girls, just when I'm out there helping Blake as they're terracing the hill, I will just be leaning against my shovel, just like every Department of Transportation worker out in the world. I'll just be leaning against it, saying, "Yeah, good. Oh no, boys, that's not quite as level over there. Your retaining wall is." That's what I'll be doing. I won't be doing any of the shoveling.
Right. Hilarious. But yeah, and that's kind of the thing, is there's a lot we want to do. There's, these are all, and here's kind of the thing. I think this is why this is such a natural dovetail anyway. We're doing it in our own lives anyway. I mean, these are the things that we all feel are a necessity for what is happening and what is to come. It's and beyond the fact too, from specifically my point of view here, I'm not bashful about it, I'm a Christian, is we are said to have dominion over the earth. Now, the modern understanding of that is, pollution, massive production at the sacrifice of everything else. That's not what it meant. Dominion over the earth is the blending of nature and man together. How can we make the natural systems work for us? How can we expand and have a larger production base out of doing that sort of thing? How can we better honed and prepared to protect our family and protect our flock? We are to be those good stewards of the earth. And that's what good stewardship means. And it's a total thing, in my opinion, where you're both blending of the natural world and the man. So that's, again, go ahead.
If you don't mind, I want to bring this back to you. Two things. So again, Gene made a comment about canning, videos on canning.
I saw that. Yep.
Yeah. So that would be something we probably would never do. I mean, Blake, I'm asking you this question, to respond to Gene, but that is maybe something we do as a standalone video that's on the website, because, again, it's basic tools, and then it's a basic concept, and it's really not that hard. You just got to get off your ass and do it. But then back to what you just were saying, Blake, before you go too far away. I know there's a lot of people who, for whatever reason, don't like RFK Jr. I guess I'm just not knowledgeable enough to know what his thing is that's pissing everybody off. But one of the things that I like, and maybe this is what's pissing people off, is because he's talking about victory gardens. He's talking about getting back and planting in your own neighborhood or your backyard if you can do it.
Well, and what's great about victory gardens too, my dad had Fox News on the other day. Oh gosh, I hate any corporate news, but it doesn't matter. So he has this on the other day, and it was the 5 or something, and they were talking about a series of people that are on the left side of the spectrum that were fighting tyranny of Trump's order by growing a victory garden. I was like, I love this, dude. This is literally things I've been pushing people for years to do. I mean, we've been talking about victory gardens for over a decade now. And to see it be like, as they were saying, rage garden, I was like, I don't care where it comes from. If it gets people making their own food, I'm a happy man. When World War II was going on, and I'm not going to get these numbers right, so please don't quote me on this, but go look it up because it's absolutely fascinating. But I want to say it was like 6% of the land that the industrial farms had, so everybody's front yards and their backyards converted into victory gardens, produced the same amount of food, I believe it was, as the industrial farms. And all of the industrial food industry kind of freaked out because they're like, whoa, we got to kill this concept of a victory garden because it's going to totally undermine our profits. And that's the thing, is that they did this style of gardening. It was called it was basically a horseshoe raised bed that you brought like 2 foot up off the ground, And then it's a type of cluster planting where you actually really pile things in basically as tight as you absolutely can. And if you grow them together properly, it looks like a giant food jungle, and it outproduces about anything else out there. And the nice part is you don't have to weed it as much. You don't have to feed it hardly as much because everything's kind of working in natural together, and you'd just be amazed at the amount of food you can produce. So again, these are some of the things that I'd really love to see us go in those directions. But this first season, we got about 12 classes we're going to be doing. We're going to really try to dial in on, see what the community's interest is in, both physically here in our environment and also digitally. And then, as we go on with things, we'll keep sharing more, and hopefully this becomes, profitable enough where it's really worth our time to invest a lot of time in it. Because, the more profitable it is, the more time we're going to invest into it, the more you guys are going to see. So, that's kind of a little bit of a primer on what we've got going on behind the scenes right now.
Hey, and honestly, and I just thought of this just because of the glorious noise coming from, you in your household.
He's getting hungry.
Well, no, but I'm not like, hey man, there's a lot of like new parents out there who've never had, it's just like a lessons learned, like, hey man, I'm not saying we did it right, but this is what we learned, and this is what was, like that kind of shit. And I know there's a bunch of million books and all that kind of crap, but it's different when it's people within your community sharing their experiences and their knowledge with each other. And to include like, oh, you're having a kid. Oh, well, hey, let me know when, he or she is about, 2 years old. I got a ton of 2-year-old kid, clothes, because, you might as well
this
share
is
that stuff, right?
What you're talking about right here is, again, why this is such a threat to any power system. It doesn't matter who's in control. When you have community that honestly gives a damn and can help each other out, wealth growth becomes much easier. Strength of community, and call what it is, strength of clan becomes stronger. Viability in crisis situations become much more sustainable. Like, and that's the threat.
And don't forget some of the other more breaking bread, empathy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Faith in your neighbor or love for your fellow man, however you want to say that. Like,
you want to know why firefighters have food together? It's because they're more willing to put their life on the line because they broke bread. I mean, honestly, that's what it comes down to. It really does. And then that's the thing here is when you bleed together, when you sweat together, when you cry together, your family, whether you have the same blood or not. And that's the thing that's awesome about the internet and also terrifying about the internet. But you can have community, well, all the way across the pond. Hi, Gene. And that's the thing is we may never meet each other face to face. Okay, but we can exchange information and we can actually generate real lasting relationships. And hey, in the off sake that something crazy happens in one area, maybe some people in the other area because of it. The community goes beyond just sitting here and commenting and listening to us talk and listening to the classes we generate. It's reaching out to each other. You see someone that comments a bunch of things that you're like, hey man, this guy's kind of similar to me. Hit him up. Talk to them, build your own community, expand this outwards. It's like, what is it? The rule of three, you tell 3 people, they tell 3 more, and it just grows. Well, if we're all being very serious about building community, well, let's start doing it.
And there it is right there. So we're at 45 minutes. We can maybe wrap it up, but that was our kind of spiel, in a nutshell. We didn't go through all the classes. I'm going to come back over to Blake, but we're serious about community building. And, we had to take some time off last year. It didn't, come on, man, boys and girls, the deal. It's life. And it's like, oh, okay, we're not going to be able to get to that this year. Again, for the most important reason is the miraculous one that you hear in the background of Blake's place, right? Yeah. So, okay, but we'll move forward, and that's what we're going to do. And hopefully this helps you guys out. And hopefully, hope's not a method, but it's also something you have to believe in and never give up. And hopefully that inspires you, or you can share it with somebody else, and I love all you guys in the chat. I mean, there's so many guys that I've never, ever, and, there's just another weird thing, Blake, most people like, what's wrong with like a good man handshake or a hug or a kiss on the head or just like a physical touch when you're sad or whatever, dude, that's human beings. That is being beaten out of us. So or if you're, an adult, you're like, you're breaking bread, as Blake said, or having a drink. You don't have to drink, but it's the same thing. You're breaking bread with each other and sharing communion and sharing that, relieving that stress or sharing that experience through a shared activity. whatever,
Well, and
I
going
think
back to like your physical touch comment, I mean, that absolutely has been beat out of us because of the importance of it. What's the biggest thing? We've talked about it before, breaking up of the family nucleus. Family isn't always blood, but breaking up of the community. We're more connected now than we ever have been before because of technology. And in the same breath, we're more fractured and broken and separated because of technology. I can't overstate the importance of breaking bread. I honestly can't. I really genuinely think it's one of the most important things human beings can do is sit down and eat together.
Well, and I'm just going to throw this out there. And I apologize. You can throw me under the bus when we're done here. If you have time for after action review, over on just my personal side, talking to a couple of the boys in the chat, I wanted to start doing like a Sunday, a live stream on Sunday. I don't want to call it a Bible study. And matter of fact, Blake, the name of it was going to be Breaking Bread based off my conversations with you. But I almost think that really should be Millstone, because that seems, like, look, I'm getting beat up on Centerline because because I'm a human being, oh my God, you're trying to give people advice on how not to get the shit kicked out of them because of the car they drive. You're an evil person. Like, what? So, maybe over on Millstone, you just like, yeah, I don't give a shit. If that's how you feel about it, God bless you. Best of luck in the world. And, don't try to steal my shit if the balloon goes up, because that ain't going to work. But maybe that'd be a good place over there, because again, it's that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be necessarily about Christianity. I'm a Christian. Blake's a Christian. But if your faith, if you believe in something and you have faith in something and you believe in just even working with your fellow man and having some
building
type of
community.
Building a community. So, those type of conversations.
Well,
so,
and you use a millstone to mill grain to make bread, to break bread.
I mean, seriously, so again, I just kind of threw that out out of nowhere. I almost did throw it up. I mean, I've been not feeling super good, but no, but so, Blake and I will talk about that. That might just be another little adjunct over on the Millstone side. And then before I kind of bring it back over to Blake, we're at 47 minutes, 48 minutes. The first Monday of the month is Millstone Monday, right? That's where, even as this progresses, we're still going to do something on that first Monday. We're going to do one more Millstone Monday over here on Centerline Systems. So next month in May, we're doing that over here. Then the month after that in June, all of the Millstone content and everything is going to go back over to Millstone, right? Moving that back over there. Blake, do you want to add or?
Well, yeah, we're gonna do one more on this one just because we'd really like to see kind of people move over there, especially as we start generating some content on that. Sorry, the sun is like at that worst angle in the house right now. But yeah,
hey, hang on. But where you are right now, it's very well lit. I just expect to see the little man swinging off of a chandelier behind you or something, though.
Seriously, man, he's full on like Tyrannosaurus Rex mode. Like he's making Actually, it was really cute. So we had a nature show on earlier, and there was a big old male lion laying down on the Serengeti, and he was chuffing, and then he roared. And Alex threw his head back and roared. Oh, hey, there's his name, by the way. This is the first time I've said it online, but threw his head back and roared. And I was like, oh, man, little lion. I love it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Hey, I want to give you a chance to respond to that and maybe take us out. My last little bit of housekeeping, and then we've got a couple comments that came in that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to turn it over to Blake for his final comments and outro. But again, so just a reminder, we'll do one more Millstone Monday. That'll be the first. It's always the first Monday of the month. So whatever that date is, just the first Monday of the month. So in May, first Monday in May, we'll still do it over here on Centerline Systems. After that, everything will be moving back over to Millstone. We'll have more opportunities. If you haven't found us on, Rumble or X or over, even here on ScrewTube, you can find it either by just like, Millstone SRG or MSRG. I guess maybe I should post it up here after this video is over. I'll put it in the comments where you can find us, or we can do that again next month. And then my other little bit of news on the Centerline Systems live stream. The Monday, which is our loadout live, is just going to be Millstone Monday. And I'm not going to do any more loadout lives on Mondays. And I'll maybe explain this a little bit later. But what I'm really wanted to get out is the last Thursday of the month will be CLS After Dark. So we're going to still do the CLS After Dark, but we're only going to do it one day a month. It'll be the last Thursday of the month. And Blake, what is the subtitle for the CLS After Dark?
The long, hard month in review.
The long, hard month in review. So I'm going to do a live this Thursday for CLS, and I'm going to try out this little idea and format and just have some fun with it. So if you can join us on Thursday back here on CLS Gear, but for the CLS After Dark, and then we'll start that, later on. But again, CLS After Dark, the last Thursday of the month, the long, hard month in the review. But I am going to do one this week because I just want to practice it and I want to have fun. I kind of think it's a fun idea. And I'll talk a little bit more about centerline systems in that video. But we're not going to there's no live stream next Monday, the following Monday. We're only doing live streams on the CLS Gear chat or the CLS Gear channel on Mondays. And this will be a little bit more apparent as I'm going through. Look, I'll just be honest. It's just been really, this isn't Joe Rogan. I can't pay anybody this, that, or the other. It's really hard to coordinate multiple schedules and trying to bring people on. So being able to nail it into here's the 1 or 2 times a month that we have people coming on, it's going to be a lot more, honestly, it's going to be a lot more efficient. We all heard that. I was looking at the camera. Was he swinging from the tree?
No, he was reaching over the playpen with Zach trying to reach for me. He knows I'm getting his dinner ready, or getting his dinner ready right now. There we go. English, Blake. It's your primary language.
Hey, ready.
Right.
Right. So that was my my little final outro housekeeping. So just stay tuned. No live stream next Monday. I might post something up. I might do a short video, and maybe I will. But the live streams are going to be very different now going forward. But here's what you can rest assured on: the last Thursday of the month, CLS After Dark, the long, hard month in review. And then the first Monday of the month is Millstone Monday. Again, next month it'll be here on CLS Gear, and then the month after that in June, it's going to be back over on the Millstone channel. All right, Blake, that's all I got. As you're getting dinner ready. What's your outro final comments? Oh, hang on, real quickly. Gene said loves the live tonight. Thanks, Gene. He's for the long game, as they say. Appreciate that. VTech, damn it, I work 12 hours every Sunday. Well, you can always watch it on demand afterwards, or, sneak in an earbud there, VTech Moonwalker. We'd love to have you. So I guess that's a vote for doing the breaking bread on Sundays is what I'm hearing. Yeah, and then Dave just said it, Snowshoe Dave. I like that breaking bread idea. And then Gene was laughing about, I don't know, kids swing from the chandeliers.
No, I think it was the long, hard month in review, actually.
All right. And then Questview, and stay tuned because you're probably going to see Questview. He knows it, but he doesn't know it. But he's definitely going to help out with that breaking bread concept. So good to see you over here there, Blackbeard. All right, Blake, sir, take us on out so you can get that kid ready.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, as always, we're glad to have you here tonight. We love the feedback, love the comments. Pretty excited about the direction we're going. It's a lot of new things, a lot of new beginnings, but it's cool. And I'm glad you guys are here for the ride. We'll keep you in touch. Maybe we'll even do a live stream of the range facilities one of these days here pretty soon. So you can kind of see where we're going to be doing this stuff at and, kind of keep building that community. So when we're not logged on, go out and build your own community, expand it. Let people know about us, but let people know about other people that of that are giving good information. Try to build that network, build that community. I mean, I know I drive this home like I'm kicking a dead horse, but it really is the main thrust of Millstone. So with that being said, God bless you all. And I got to go let this meat eater eat some meat because he's about to eat a finger, it looks like at the moment.
And Gene will get this, I really do like Futurama. I've got some Futurama paraphernalia behind me. It just, whenever you talk about him and his eating, it makes me think of Nibbler. Like Nibbler is like that cute little thing. And then where is Nibbler?
Dude, it's unbelievably true.
Way over there by the Claymore. But Nibbler eats a whole elephant. So that's
really funny. I might start calling him Nibbler, actually, because that's really funny. I love that because he does. It's unbelievable. So he had venison for the first time, a week ago. and then proceeded to eat it every night for 4 nights. And you can hear him right now. And he's hearing venison. He's getting excited. And he would so the first night, my wife, Kat, was cutting up little pieces for him and feeding him. And she could not cut it up fast enough. He was getting pissed off. He wasn't getting venison. And he turned his nose up to everything else. And he ate 3.5 ounces of venison almost by itself. It was I am in a meat coma, and then slept for 11 hours. It was awesome.
I think Nibbler is a pretty damn good name right there.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to see if I can find a Nibbler plushie or something that would be safe for him to have,
It was really funny too. We were in church on Sunday, and he was crawling around the foyer because he just wanted to play. He did not want to be in church. And this lady walks up, and he crawls up to her and then sits down, looks up, and then drops down and crawls off. And she goes, "My goodness, is he a tank?"
There it is, boys and girls community, man. Love the people that love you and love freedom, and just get out there and crush it. And we're moving forward. So stay tuned. We'll have more information coming, and hopefully be able to share some stuff with you guys. Because honestly, if you're spending time with us, if you love freedom, we love you as well. And we're really just very grateful that you're here. And Blake, my only final comment is just God bless. And so are you no AAR for you?
What was that?
No.
I know I can talk on the phone while I'm feeding him. That's not a problem. But I think Zach's got to get going here too. So let me chit chat with him, and if he wants to hang out, he can stay on the phone for the AR. But yeah, whatever's clever.
Okay. Well, I'll just give you a holler a little bit. All right, boys and girls, we really appreciate everybody being here. Hats off to Blake, and congratulations to him again. Bringing a new life into the world, and that's awesome. The new.
I don't know if I've said this before. We got another one coming on July 14th.
I was doing my CIA
stuff. We got another one coming on July 14th. So
all right, well, make the announcement. You just kind of did it, make it official.
Yeah, we got another boy coming July 14th. So 2 boys. It's gonna be crazy. They're gonna be 15 months apart. So as they say, they'll be best of friends and worst of enemies.
And
I'm still crazy.
I'm still waiting for the cigar from Nibbler. So that's 2 cigars I'm gonna get out.
Yeah, we're gonna have to smoke some serious cigars. I actually I got to go out and get this one, his first birthday gift, and I'd get in trouble for this in most circles, but he's getting a bottle of scotch for his first birthday. That's gonna have his name on it and say, "Do not open until your wedding day."
That's gonna be badass.
Yeah.
Hey, if you've got a recommendation for what bottle of scotch, seriously, that Blake should purchase, he puts in a time capsule for his kids, 21st birthday or his wedding, man. So there's an idea for our giveaway right there.
Put it in the CLS Gear chat though, because I'll be logging off here soon. I won't see your suggestions, but yeah, really, if you guys got scotch recommendations,
not in the chats, in the comment of the video. We'll bring this up again next time. Because Blake and I were thinking of something to do for a giveaway. There it is right there. Whoever gives you the best idea for the bottle of scotch, that's the winner. And then we'll hook them up with something.
Well, I will say, though, I'm getting the bottle of scotch for his birthday, which is on the 26th. So I'll have that bottle before our next live stream. But I'd love to see the recommendations because I could do it for the next one.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there. Let's do the setup for Nibbler number 2.
Right. And yeah, Glenn Levitt's always a classic. So
yeah. All right, everybody. All right, guys. God bless everybody. Be good. Thanks for being here with us tonight. Gene just gave you a big woo as well. I don't know if you saw that right there. Husky Bunch was here apparently the whole time. Just said, good night, everybody. Husky Bunch, we were wondering if you were here tonight. We were looking for our other Minnesotans. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
God bless
you. I'll have a bunch of static, on-demand content or video only or whatever you want to call that, not live. But I'm going to be putting out a lot more content. So just stay tuned, and I'll be doing little snippets and informational pieces in that. I am going to do the CLS After Dark this Thursday. So what is that? Today's the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Or 10th, excuse me. But I guess that's really all I got.
All right. We'll have a great night, guys.
We'll see you on CLS After Dark this Thursday. And we'll have
that long, hard month. Well, that's actually the shorter, long, hard chunk.
hang on, real quickly, just so you see this. Better Call Paul is here. BCP.
Oh, hey, Paul.
Yeah, but I just went a bottle of port. Okay, now I like port.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I could get a bottle of port too. His future wife might like that a little more than scotch.
Well, I can't drink scotch. I can drink port. So get him port so I can be there to join him with it.
All right, fair enough. I tell you what, I'll be honest, this is that total selfish thing. I hope he gets married younger and has kids younger than I did.
And just to let you know, so as we go the long, hard month in review, the very last section is going to be called the Minnesota Goodbye, which you just witnessed for 10 minutes. This was a 10-minute goodbye. I'm just going to call it the Minnesota Goodbye.
I love it.
Yeah, there we go. All right, everybody, be good. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you guys later. As always, keep thinking, keep moving, never quit. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Woo!